So I want to share about the idea of Amalek and this idea of healing and kind of in terms of doing battle. So Amalek attacked the Jews after they had left Egypt with miracles and wonders. They had some doubts. It happened on the inside. And then Amalek on the outside. I mean, they were still in their slave mentality, even though they were freed from being slaves. You could say it took some time, or you could say that they just needed like a deeper healing, that was going to come at the time of the giving of the Torah. But there was a battle of the weak or the stragglers or the ones in the rear, kind of, especially heavily the tribe of Dan, which was in the encampment. They were like twirled into a circle, like four directions, but like coiled inward. But as they would travel, they were like in a line. So, and then the line would sort of wrap around when they camped. So basically, Dan was the rear. Dan would return everyone not just their possessions that they lost, but also their people that they lost on the way, who forgot their identity. So Amalek is related to all of this. Some say Amalek is the one that cooled down that passion by instilling doubts to begin with on the spiritual plane, and then attacked physically once the people were not so strong. It turned out that obviously the Jews won, but they could not kill all of them. What happened? Later on, King Saul... Oh, and in the war, when Moses' hands were lifted, Hor and Aaron, his brother, would hold up his arms when they got tired. Or we could say they weren't really tired, but in order to add strength, when the Jews saw the arms were lifted, they had more energy to battle. And Joshua led them on land, while Moses stood above and you could see him. So, in this way, Moses did the spiritual battle, and Joshua led the people in the physical battle. Moses led the spiritual battle, and Joshua led the physical battle. And so we're doing this inner war and on the outside, okay? What continued? When I say we, I mean anyone who identifies as a Jew going through the process of redemption and sometimes finding ourselves in the expanse between after redemption and real freedom, like being redeemed from slavery, and then true freedom, true free choice, right? So in that between place, we sometimes may not feel worthy or ready, but most importantly, a later descendant of Saul, this is why Saul could not remain king, because he took time from killing the king of the Amalekites. Finally, they were able to eradicate Amalekite. This was a illegitimate child. Amalek originally, how did this people Amalek turn out to come into being? From an illegitimate child from Yaakov's brother was Esav. They were twins. And Esav's son, Eliphaz. And in that lineage, there was a child, Amalekite, born from an illegitimate relationship, the concubine Timnah. Timnah actually went to Yaakov's family. She wanted to marry from them, but they said they couldn't be with her. And so she went. She still wanted to be part of Avraham's family, the lineage. And since Avram, his grandchildren, was the twins, Yaakov and Esav, she went for Esav's family. So after this, they had a strength like being part of Abraham's lineage through Yitzchak, not, Yaakov and Esav. So anyway, Amalek's lineage continued on. They had some special, abilities. And finally, in the time of Saul, King Saul was the first king of the Jewish people. Not leader, king. And he was told to wage war by Samuel the prophet with Amalek and leave no survivor. He let the king Agag stay alive. It says that he impregnated a woman over that night before he was killed. And that's what continued the lineage. They were not all wiped out. Then they got in such a way mixed in that it was like something that was said that they could implant their energy in animals. And the Jews said, look at these beautiful fat animals. We want to give them to God. We want to sacrifice them to God. However, Samuel said that's not what God wanted. God said, kill all the animals, all the people. Don't even, don't have any mercy. Don't think about it like that. This is a commandment from God. So Saul lost his kingship because of breaking these rules. And the Amalekites continued to exist. Later on, there was Esther. She was a descendant of Saul, and she was asked by Mordecai, her uncle or husband or both, to remember that maybe this is why you're here, because there was someone in the palace who wanted to kill the Jews just for being Jewish, and his name was Haman, and he was called Ben Agagi. He was from the lineage of Agag. So we can see that this is a very, like a weed that is strong, and it creeps in when there's space. So we have to look at this in two ways, in the physical battle and the spiritual battle. So Aubrey Marcus happens to say something I really like, so I'm going to say, he says, ultimately, I don't feel attached to any hypothesis about who is doing what, who's behind what. I know where I stand. I stand for sovereignty, values, dialogue, and love. Empire, or in this case, I'm using this to speak for Amalek, stands for control, submission, silence, and force. And whether empire, or he doesn't say Amalek, but I'm saying Amalek, is a discarnate entity that infects us all. Or there's a circle of black tie sorcerers pulling the strings. It doesn't matter. I stand against empire, Amalek, everywhere in all dimensions and at all times. And Parshas Mishpatim, Shemos, Exodus, Parsha being the portion of Shemos, Exodus chapter 21, verse 25, the sages interpret four types of restitution an assailant must make for inflicting bodily pain or harm. One is nezek, which is loss of value. Two is tsar, pain. Three is rifoi, medical costs. And four is sheves, loss of income. So we can only hope that everything that Amalek did will eventually, the Torah, which is the true code of the right way, eventually they'll be held responsible. Could be that all that they had done to kill the Jews just for being Jews, to attack weak stragglers who were not going after them, to go out of their way to go kill people who were not even interested in them, to have this fundamentally deep-seated hatred. And then in Devarim 25:11, there's a fifth payment, which is humiliation. It says they cut off the penises of tribe of Dan. They said, ha, creator of the world that you serve told you to cut your foreskin, and they made a mockery because they were all part of the covenant of Abraham. They cut off their foreskin. And I had a talk with Reuven, this man, about the destruction of Amalek, how emotionally it hurts to hurt someone you love. So to be a lover means you have less people you're allowed to hurt, because if you love someone, you can't stand to hurt them. And what is the destruction of Amalek? It's all about humiliation, terror and confusion, execution. They're relationships that relationships are supposed to protect identity and self-worth. They were supposed to be related. They were literally supposed to be cousins, or second, third, fifth cousins, right? Relationships increase respect versus the self-centeredness that could occur. Love should be more than a pride. It should feel warm and like a cocoon, and total trust and complete care. We can get strength from the support. And I also, we can get boundaries from the support that is forthcoming, and from also supporting. I want to share some boundary phrases from, there's a therapist, her name is Katie McKenna. She says, let's say like we're with someone and they're, I'm talking about all different kinds of modern day warfare, basically. So I don't want to be touched like that. Do not comment on my body. I'm not responsible for your behavior. I won't allow you to use guilt to control me. I have a right to be angry, or I would say disturbed, or upset. Like if someone's using tactics to make us feel, we're not allowed to. My feelings are as equally as important as yours. If you choose to ignore me, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not prepared to discuss this any further. Giving me the silent treatment is childish and manipulative. I am feeling overwhelmed right now. I need a break. And I want to continue about Amalek, where we're healing the body, in the body, any trace. It has to do with wanting to destroy, unsatisfied, sickness. It is in our touch, how we touch. It's wanting to kill fakers. It's victim shaming or blaming. If you're so good, then why'd you end in or with bad? And I want to make a stop here and say, I'm talking about modern and also original and also like the iterations of Amalek, because some of the interpretations of Amalek was that they were upset. Like, why do you deserve to be chosen? Why do you deserve to be special or redeemed? Look, you're not so special. Why are you the chosen one? And in a way, we could say they're fair. They're saying, why should anyone be the favorite? That's not called for. That's not real. That's not lasting. So this is why we have to do deep work with these patterns so that the doubts don't come in. Someone has to pay, or there's not enough. Innocence, cruelty, withholding, rationing, depriving, irresponsible, not mutual. If you got into slavery, well, you went into it for something you wanted and got trapped, so it's your fault. Emotional abuse and denial, humiliating and degrading in order to be the consequences that the other is avoiding and protecting their self from. With the buffers. Okay, so there's buffers of external observations that are cherry-picked to prove self-pity is entitled and that punishing the other is warranted. So we say like, oh, like, look at how they treat me. I deserve to stick up for myself, right? Because therefore I have a right to get you back or to show everyone what you're doing, right? But really you could be totally out of line. Like, the idea here is that the Jews, it was a famine when the Jews went into Egypt, and their brother was the king, second to the king. And basically he said, you'll be Paro and everything except, sitting on the throne. So he was like the king, and because he saved Egypt. And so, really, really, like, they were treated very well until the king died and a new king came. What else about Amalek? Not wanting to make the other happy, ruining the first. So we're talking here about some deep-seated stuff. The idea that any of these patterns are in you or anyone you met, like somebody who likes to corrupt virgins. This the virgin nation coming out of Egypt and they've been corrupted. Like, that idea, like, everything could extend to this. Take care of yourself, because for me, there's a lot of healing involved in that inner Amalek. Remember, we talked about how Amalek, they are very powerful, that this is coming from the lineage from Abraham. This is coming from used in a dark way with a concubine and who was rejected and who felt unloved and had a lot of energy in that. And this is coming from somebody who felt that Yaakov, the brother, stole the blessings from Esav. So this is serious stuff. And what makes you more special that you should be, like, once you were enslaved, we thought it was fine, but now you're out of slavery. Yaakov, who was Esav's brother, actually went and lived in Mitzrayim with his amazing 12 huge, strong, beautiful sons, and their families, and they went in 70 people, and there was a nation that came out of 600,000 men. Pharaoh was afraid that they were going to side with his enemies. They were subjugated so that they didn't have the ability to even reflect on how amazingly powerful they were. So this is a group that comes from they're cousins, second, third, fourth cousins. So we have to remember this is very important, that they have a way sometimes to get into our blind spots. Okay. Using the partner for the shared experience without providing, and then accusing the expector of having an agenda, dependency, immaturity, underdevelopment, limitization, non-vocalizing ability. Let me back that up and repeat it. So when you use a partner for the shared experience, like you want someone to do it with, but you don't provide, and then you accuse them, the person who has expectations of some kind of joint experience, you're dependent, you're immature, you have an agenda, you're not developed, you're limited, you don't know how to express yourself. But basically, you're exploiting someone who doesn't know how to ask or how to refuse, or may not know what the protocols are, or may not know what, like, in other words, there's a backdrop of this blamelessness the offender, i.e., the user, has already entered from, in order not to take responsibility for dangling like a carrot in front of them, like this is what you're gonna get, but then like for that mutual, like you tried to make it seem like it was worth it for both of you, but then they didn't get what they were in it for, and then they're really mistreated, and after they've been abandoned or rejected, disrespected, or there was irresponsibility, like I did my part, you didn't do your part, as if there is no duty, morality, unity, or karma. So let's end here, but I want to say that just because there are these patterns, and like I said, they can have a strong effect because they are like basically we would say like the dark side of these strengths. God avenges the wickedness will be exposed. It will not be normalized. Okay, so that's what we know. We know that we can count on that. So may we all be blessed to eradicate Amalek from inside of us and from the world. And even if there is someone who is of the physical lineage of Amalek, may they be able to accept their fate, whatever it is that God wants for them. If God wants someone to be extinct because they are genetically like a forbidden species or product, there's nothing any of us could do to stop it. So I'll leave it here. Definitely I would say try to be around someone you trust after this video. Even just try to have a short conversation with someone you trust, because this is very serious spiritual and physical warfare, literally. Okay, all right, bye.